Hello, doctors. I hope you're keeping great and mentally charged up to handle your cases. I'll be today explaining to you three terminologies: myoclonus, myotonia, and myokemia. All three are related to muscles, but they're having a grossly different presentation and different reasons. So I'll be explaining each one of these one by one on a case. The first one that we'll handle here would be myoclonus. Myoclonus is a sudden, brief, jerky movement that you will notice will be occurring on the face of the patient and usually the distal upper limb. Why mainly the face and the distal upper limb is because they would be having more cortical representation, and you can definitely understand that these can interfere with the speech as well as the performance of the tasks by the patient. The myoclonus can be of two varieties. It could be a positive myoclonus or it could be a negative one. Positive would obviously mean muscle contraction, but negative myoclonus, you would be wondering, muscle relaxation, what's the big deal about it? After all, you are sitting comfortably in your hospital or maybe sitting comfortably in your bed and you are listening to me. Well, I want to highlight that negative myoclonus can be physiological as well. How physiological? Imagine you came back from your night shift. You are dead tired, so you lie down on the sofa and you are just on the verge of falling asleep. At that particular moment, you might perceive a sudden jerk in your leg and you might get a sensation as if you're gonna fall. That's what is called as hypnic jerk. The message is positive myoclonus is always pathological, but negative myoclonus, where you have a muscle relaxation, where there's a decrease in the tone of the muscles, can be physiological as well. This physiological example that I gave to you while you were just on the verge of sleeping and you got a feeling as if you're gonna fall and there was a jerky movement of your arm or of your leg is called as hypnic jerk. On the other hand, I'll now be explaining to you regarding a pathological variant of a negative myoclonus, asterixis. The frequency of this can be in the range of about 6 to 11 hertz and it's bilaterally symmetrical. I hope you remember that in Parkinsonism, the resting tremor would be in the range of 4 to 6 hertz. The message is negative myoclonus can either be physiological or pathological. Physiological would be at the sleep onset. Pathological would be mainly related to uremic or a hepatic encephalopathy. You need to check whether this would be occurring at rest or maybe on maintaining a posture or during an action per se. And obviously EEG would be helping you in identifying myoclonic jerks or myoclonic epilepsy. But we do specialized tests, that is electrophysiological studies, to find out the etiology of where is this myoclonus originating from. Is it cortical? Is it subcortical? Is it a spinal myoclonus? Why is it important to find out the etiology? Is primarily based on the fact that per se, you can definitely use clonazepam for management of this condition. In fact, most of you would have seen or you would have prescribed clonazepam for management of myoclonic jerks in a patient. But if you are able to identify where is it originating from, you will be able to give specific treatment, like for example, valproate and levetiracetam. They are especially useful in the cortical variety. It's important for you to realize that myoclonic is a sudden, brief, shock-like jerky movement as I demonstrated before you, and it could be either cortical or subcortical. In clinical practice, cortical will be the commonest presentation in your OPD. I've already explained would be involving the face and the distal upper limbs, but where would you get subcortical myoclonus and what is going to be the manifestation? Then one of the important disease that I want you to remember is prion disease, variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, where you have subcortical myoclonus. Here, the myoclonic jerks are sensitive to auditory stimulus. That is, in an adult person, if there is a loud noise like a bursting of a cracker, you see, there's a possibility that on a Diwali season, children might be bursting crackers, and suddenly there's a loud noise. You and me might even have that sudden tensing of muscles in our body, but there's nothing alarming about it. That's just a reaction of our body to a very loud noise. In this particular patient of prion disease per se, even a sudden, if you calling out the name of the patient and suddenly there might be a jerk of the arm or jerking of the face of the patient. So do remember the fact that subcortical myoclonus is seen in variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, and there are some important causes of myoclonus that I want you to remember. Juvenile myoclonic epilepsy, that's common between 10 to 19 years of age, is discussed in the app separately in the epilepsy section. Variant Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease is discussed in the infection component, especially the CNS infection component that I've handled. Then can be SSPE, that's going to be related to the Measles virus, you very well know, slow virus disease. It causes manifestations at 8 years of age, whereas the infection with measles virus occurred at relatively young age. And then obviously infantile spasm, where we use ACTH injections. West syndrome, you very well aware of, and we have a Hindi terminology also coming up that is called as salam Caesars. Now we will compare myoclonus with that of myotonia, and with respect to myotonia, look at what really happens in the patient when I'm doing a percussion, when I'm trying to evaluate a percussion myotonia. There is a slow or a delayed relaxation of muscles. Myoclonus was a brief jerky movement. Myotonia is a delayed relaxation of the muscles, which will again be involving the same set of muscles, that is the distal upper limb and the facial muscles. But the message is here there's a problem with relaxation. So let me just demonstrate that once again to you, and you will have a better orientation. In this particular case, I'm introducing my two fingers in the hand of the patient, and I'm just asking him to grab those fingers as hard as I can. And then you can see that when I've tried to withdraw my fingers, the patient definitely lost grip. But then you can see, and you saw here, that the relaxation occurred relatively slowly. Most of these patients who are obviously non-medical people, they will say, doctor, I get cramps. And you will notice that these crampy movements would be present. Why is saying cramp? You see the point. Why, what I'm trying to make here is, the problem is with the relaxation, but a person is not obviously able to understand whether it's a contraction, whether it is a relaxation. So patient will say, sir, I get cramps, and you will notice that these cramps will tend to decrease with activity. In fact, now I'm demonstrating a very peculiar thing. In this particular patient, I have percussed over the tongue with a hammer. See what is happening. The tongue contracted, and then, I mean, normal people don't have that. But what I'm demonstrating before you, one is this peculiar statement of mine, handkerchief not in the tongue. And I'll just show you that once again. You will notice that the tongue contracted in response to percussion, and then you can see a gradual relaxation of the muscles of the tongue, a very peculiar manifestation. So where would you be getting this myotonia is the usual query that I'll be getting. So I'll handle that also. You would be getting myotonia in myotonic dystrophy. That's a disorder, trinucleotide repeats, that you read in pediatrics. In the app, in the medicine section, I have talked about channelopathies. I have talked about SCN4A defect, paramyotonia congenita. I have described hyperkalemic periodic paralysis. Those are the important causes of myotonia that you need to be familiar with. And then you have the standard pseudomyotonia question that can come up, which can be seen with myositis or with the glycogen storage disorders or anterior horn cells. The message at the moment is, when it comes to myoclonus, it's going to be characterized by, I hope you remember the terminologies I was using, jerky, sudden movements, brief duration involving the face. But myotonia is a problem with relaxation. Now let us understand, what do you understand by the word myokemia? So notice the myokemia in this patient of mine. A very peculiar, you can notice this twitching, जिसको हम हिंदी में बोलते हैं ना, आंख फड़कना. If you're not comfortable with Hindi, I'll anyway go with the technical language. It's a spontaneous, fine fascicular contractions. It may occur in a person even from, I would say, it can be benign as well, but you need to keep a watch out for, because you will definitely encounter this in women with multiple sclerosis, even in hemifacial spasm. So next time you get a patient with myokemia, you need to ask three questions to the patient. One is, obviously, he could be stressed out, fatigue. You can get myokemia. You and me can be having myokemia. It could be excessive intake of caffeine or alcohol. And if you are using topiramate in your patients, especially epileptic patients, or for migraine patients where you are using topiramate for prophylaxis, if you are using a higher dose of topiramate, you will notice your patients coming back to you with these complaints of myokemia. If you are using a higher dose of topiramate for prophylaxis of migraine, you will have your patients coming back to you with these complaints of myokemia. So my objective of this discussion was to sensitize you to three terminologies that we read in neurology and cause a bit of distress in case you're not aware of the meanings. But I hope it's very clear. The jerky movement that I initially explained to you, that was myoclonus, delayed relaxation, that is myotonia, and lastly, this flickering, spontaneous fascicular contractions around the eye muscles, periocular area, that is myokemia. And I hope this discussion was fruitful for you. Keep listening, and I'll be back with another discussion.